Let's bring in Guggenheim Securities' John DiFucci, who says to buy Okta, which we'll get to in a moment, John. But I do want to ask you about CRM, where expectations are going into this, and whether or not there's any room to talk about either pulling forward some margin targets or AI or other things that are interesting right now.
Well, of course, if they say anything about AI, the stock will go up a little bit on that. But that just seems to happen on everything in software. But Carl, I think expectations right now are pretty low for Salesforce this quarter, at least on the top line. Anybody that's done any checks, it comes back negative. Ours have come back negative. We do a partner survey with over 50 partners, and that's come back more negative than it's ever been. At the same time, the way they guided as if it was going to be a disastrous quarter. So they may put up numbers that are pretty bad, but relative to expectations, they don't look that bad. They could even beat the numbers on this quarter. Guidance for next year is another story, though, I think.
We'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, a huge story, as David said. Okta, we mentioned in the intro. You do have a couple of names here. I think Splunk's another one where maybe directionally the checks are a little more favorable.
Yeah, both Okta and Splunk, the checks are a little bit better than they have been. They've been pretty okay. They haven't been very good for either of those companies, but this quarter they've gotten better. Both of those companies are trading at levels that, well, Splunk's actually appreciated quite a bit just recently. But Okta did off its bottom, but it's been sort of just meandering around these current levels. We think that they could Splunk's probably going to put up a really good quarter relative to expectations, and they could guide next quarter really well. But their guidance for the year is probably going to be materially below the street, and we don't know how that's going to be taken. We've seen other companies do that, and the stock actually rallies because people think it's de-risked. In this case, we don't think it's de-risked. We think that there's just not a lot of renewals coming in, and because of accounting in ASC 606, which is the bane of all CFOs and investors, if it's on-premise subscription, you don't get that upfront. You don't get as much upfront recognition of license for that kind of business. So you're going to see significant deceleration in growth for Splunk for next year. Okta's a different story. They've guided already next year, and they have de-risked the guidance, we think, so they should be okay with what they print.